Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. I think what we've been trying to do this year is start the podcast off with a little bit of empathy, get a sense of what you did to stay strong last year. And I think that's a great place for us to meet each other. So that's what our community is about. It's about connecting data enthusiasts, very big about mindfulness, empathy, leadership. So I would love to hear, how did you, to the best of your ability, survive last year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big thing that I did last year was really get into biking. I just loved being outside, especially in the summer. Of course, easy to distance as needed. I was able to, get together even with some friends and just go on those big bike paths we have in Chicago and spend some time with family as well out in the suburbs. So that was definitely a big thing for me. My morning coffee or coffees often got me through many of the days. And I have to say, probably really the biggest thing that got me through was having my wife, always with me at our apartment and whenever we're really going anywhere. I really feel for a lot of the people that had to spend so much time alone. So definitely thankful for that.
Yeah, it's so great you said that. There's so many people that we've spoken to that have gotten back into exercise. A lot of them were cyclists and runners. So, getting back into that routine or staying in a routine was super beneficial. I've talked a lot on my podcast about how I got back into journaling. And that really helped me getting back to that self-reflection every day, journaling thoughts and things on your list to do. I felt like sometimes you lose track of the days and the time, but having a punch list and getting them done every day. And if that means I finished the punch list at 2:00, well, my day was over at 2. If my punch list was done at 7:00, well, my day was over at 7. Keeping that type of routine helped me. So that was helpful. So it's good to share these type of stories. And a lot of people in my town were rescuing dogs. How many dogs have you seen now in your town? And how many rescues are you seeing? How many puppies are you seeing as you ride and run?
Yeah, no, when I was on the bike path, I saw a ton. Definitely makes biking on the crowded bike paths in Chicago a little complicated because people and dogs are kind of running all over the place and across the parks. But, it was one of those things where it was great to, I was alone in distance, but at the same time out on the bike path when it's nice out in Chicago, people get outside every single day. And it's awesome to see people, even though we weren't together or anything like that, but just to see people out getting activity, and through the winter now I'm biking on a trainer, which isn't the same at all. So, I watch some Netflix while I do that for something to look forward to. So I'm really, really excited to get outside and get snow out.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, I did the San Francisco to Miami exodus. Did you have any friends that did the exodus during COVID and just relocated, or anyone in your
Absolutely.
family? Or is everyone's thing, oh, I love these stories. Let me hear it.
Yeah, I think it was mostly some coworkers. I have some coworkers with children, and I heard from all of them that they just needed more space, right? For the kids to have their own space to play. It's hard to get a yard in Chicago. It's a lot easier to feel safe biking and walking with your kids out in the suburbs as well. So mostly coworkers with kids. I'd love to see them go from a small, tiny, shoebox in Chicago, at least comparatively for a family of 4, and get out to the suburbs where they're able to, have a yard and garden. I know a ton of people got into gardening in the summer here, which was really, really awesome. And me and my team at my last job, we would share a lot of gardening tips and share pictures and stuff like that. A lot of my friends, though, did stay in the city looking to buy a house, which was real complicated nowadays as well. So, I'd say it was a good mix of the two.
I mean, what's interesting about that is I don't know if people can go back to that old schedule. So I agree. It is, find that destination, work from that destination. And I think that companies that are going to now embrace this work from anywhere are going to win, because I think talent is moving around right now. We've proven that you can work and, used to run remote teams in Europe or India or EMEA or APAC. You can run remote teams in America. I think it's the longer this goes on, it's going to be hard to get back to the old schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think a lot of the flexibility that has come with working from home is really what has allowed me to do certain things that I like. I know I keep coming back to the biking, but in the summer last year, I was on some days biking for 2 hours in the morning. And if I had to go in the office, there's no way I ever would have been able to do that. So yeah, I think it'll just be more flexible.
Yep, I totally agree. I was talking to someone on a podcast earlier today, and I said it'd be interesting if the transportation uses the data and changes, peak hours. Maybe peak commute times will be 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock because no one's going to want to get into the office early anymore. So that would be really funny if the HOV lanes switch to executive level HOV lanes. Like, yeah, I'm going to be in today at 10. That's where the
Yeah.
traffic is.
I would love to
No
see
one's
that.
in.
I mean, being packed in on the L train in Chicago, and
Yep.
especially if you're running late, it's 8:45. You have to let few trains pass, and you pack in there like sardines. I don't want to go back to that ever.
Nope.
I never liked that, especially in the winter.
Nope, I'm with you. I am absolutely with you. And then, we talk about data and we talk about things we're passionate about. And most of what we're trying to do in the community is still build it around empathy and mindfulness. So much, sometimes it's just a good conversation that we can put it on the podcast so people can just not feel so lonely. As much as we think we're doing our own hacks, there's a lot of people that have kind of followed the same path as you and I have done. It needs to be a little bit of the coffee break, the coffee run. But now, when you look now forward on the pride of your team and how they got through it, were there certain technologies that you already had in place that you got lucky with? Meaning, did you already have Teams? Were you already on Slack? Were you already doing all these things that when everyone went remote, it was not as big as lift as others? Like, did you get lucky or did you have to buy a lot of subscriptions? Just, what you can share, just your experience.
Yeah, from my time in my last job when I was working at Uber, we actually worked cross collaboratively in different cities, different offices, across different organizations very often. So for us, it was pretty seamless. Most of our meetings, we'd have someone on product, engineering, data science, operations, policy, legal, you name it, on the meeting. And almost always there was at least one person that was not in Chicago where most of our team was. And even our ops organization was split up between multiple markets and multiple offices. So we were pretty used to having all of our meetings on Zoom, taking them from conference rooms and having our video on and all that stuff. So we had Slack as well. So all of that stuff was really common. Of course, it's weird to be in a different place than your own team. And I've started a new job since last year. And so I've only met some of the people on my team in person. And that's only because of the nature of my work. There's a lot of other people at the company that haven't really met anybody. So, I'm really excited to be able to meet everyone and get to know everyone at a personal level, which can definitely be hard to do remotely, but at the same time, probably come out the other end with more flexibility as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about this and I remembered I was looking at your profile just now because I forgot to ask you a question. And the question is, based on what you're doing now and what you're seeing, your connection to Uber, what you're doing now, what are your thoughts on those ghost kitchens? Do you think Travis is right on ghost kitchens as the next move?
That's a great question. Who's to say what's right or wrong? But I do know now, kind of seeing more and more of the food industry being at Chavos, that costs are tight. There's really, really tight margins. There's so many things that go into creating a space where you're serving food to a lot of people, and that can give you the flexibility to make changes. When you're dealing with real estate, especially as someone who owns a restaurant and you have a place that it's just a set space and that's all you have, it's a lot to commit to for a long period of time, where you need to get a lease potentially for 3 to 5 years. So I think there's a lot to it for companies to be able to give some of that flexibility for restaurants to try new concepts, save some cost on delivery, really allow them to expand their business. So I really do think that there's something there, but I wouldn't quote me on that either to say if anyone's right or wrong.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, and then the other thing is, and we both probably had similar friends that this is a leap, but just stay with me here for a second. But I think we probably both had friends that had, was it Zoom Pizza, that raised all that money to have the pizza made by robots in San Francisco, and then they just laid off just about everybody.
Yeah.
That was another type of food delivery. SoftBank put a ton of money into them, but it was like, order your pizza and a robot will make it. And then SoftBank was like, let's write you a huge check. But like, where do you think this market goes because of the COVID and delivery? I mean, did you guys get lucky? Did you have the right fundamentals? It's a fascinating space that you guys are playing in. So I just didn't know if you had an opinion on where this can go.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. As far as the robotics that's involved with cooking, that's a tough one. I think it's going to take a long time before we're going to get to some place like that where we can really make that reliable. I think what really makes the food industry so special and unique is the personal touch, right? When you think about all the different restaurants that you go to, all the different meals that they have, there's a person behind that has, curated and created every single one of those recipes. And I don't think that those stay stagnant either. They change over time as people are able to give feedback to the restaurants. The purchasing changes from season to season, or when people order at home or in the restaurant. So, I really think that people need to be involved in that process, especially when you're talking about, when I look at Chabas, the authentic, Pan Asian, especially Chinese cooking, like there's a lot of complicated things that go into that. So maybe something as simple as a pizza could potentially be automated, but a lot of these really complicated, authentic, innovative dishes, I think it'd be pretty tough to get that right.
Yeah. And, there's some people in our community members that are doing some really innovative things in your space. So I'm going to connect you with a couple other startups that I think you can, just learn from. Maybe, I don't know, but we've got a lot of cool, smart people in the community. So again, this community is about helping people. So if it's okay with you, and I think one of them sits in Chicago as well. So I'll make some connections for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know there's a lot of food companies, food startups in Chicago, especially. So, one of the reasons why I was...
Yeah, why is that? I was trying to figure out, why do so many start there? This guy also is in Chicago. Why do you think?
That's a good question. I don't really know, but one thing I do know from living in Chicago for a few years now is that people here love the food. Everywhere you go, even if you go to what looks like kind of a dingy bar, unfortunately haven't done that, in a while, but you might go to some place that, doesn't look like it's, the best establishment, but you're going to order chicken wings or a burger or whatever they have on the menu. You might be really surprised. If it serves food, it has to be high quality in Chicago. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. There's just no chance. So I know that people hold the bar very high for all the food in Chicago, no matter what kind of establishment you have. So I wouldn't be surprised if that just, that high bar that people have personally every single day makes its way into the professional world as well.
It's so also interesting is like everyone I know that's in that space, it's such a low margin space, which is what you were saying, that it's really hard to sometimes even do some of the automation in restaurants because of how, everything is super lean. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think it's a space that is just fascinating, and dining was supposed to be an experience, and I don't know what dining looks like after COVID. I honestly, I don't. I think takeout will continue to be huge. I love Uber Eats. Does Uber Eats also, is that a direct competitor? Does that even impact you, Uber Eats? Or do you kind of share in that in the ecosystem?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say it's kind of half and half. There's definitely space for both players. I think the unique thing about Chabas is that there's such a focus on authentic restaurants, authentic ingredients. Because of the many diverse experiences of people that we have at the company, we're able to offer, great customer service, and our whole app is in multiple languages. And so that allows us to tailor to a lot of different people that we have in many different cities across the U.S. and of course, and actually beyond the U.S. For us as well. I think another thing that with all that we are able to compete on is we just have a true understanding of our products, whether it's grocery products, our restaurant partners and working with them to get things right, and our restaurant dishes. We just have a great understanding of that. So, I think a great example of how that shines through is if you were to order groceries on Chabas versus another platform that might not be as familiar with the product, you're a lot more likely to not get something or get a product wrong. And I'm sure there's so many different versions of that can occur along the way when you don't have a really, really great understanding of the product. And of course, you're seeing that come up. It's not just Chabas that's in this unique niche space. There's other companies that are focusing on these other, slices of the broader food market in the U.S. And I think there's a lot of space for that. Something that, the really big companies, they can get a lot of things right. They can cover a lot of ground and get a lot of market share. But, because of that broad coverage, they miss a lot of the things that we're able to get right.
I think it's well said, and I've had those same exact experiences. So I'm tracking right along with you. And I think that's also what I think we all can relate to is, we've been, sheltering in place. We're really leaning on delivery. So these little, the devil's in the details in these experiences are super important. And then if you can do this right during this time, God willing, that the tailwinds will carry you once everything is rocking and rolling. So yeah, this was cool. So hey, Tyler, this is why I love meeting people. So Tyler, I appreciate you being on the show. There are a few people I want to connect you with that are in that space or have been in that space. Sometimes just it's good to, misery loves company, or sometimes it's good to innovate with the same people. So I think that's great. I mean, or maybe as you're hiring, maybe this is part of your talent pool. So this has been enjoyable. We always want you to hang out with us at our community. I mean, we're only as strong as our community that hangs out. So thank you. This was super cool.
Yeah,
I appreciate you being
absolutely.
on the show.
Like I said, happy to do it, and I really appreciate you having me on.
And we're sponsored by Pandio, so we thank Pandio for being part of our community and sponsoring us. And do you do any coupons? Should we add any promos when we publish this, or just go to the website? How should they connect, or how should they open up an account on ChowBus?
That's a great question. Well, you can download the ChowBus app from the App Store. Just type ChowBus. It's real easy to find. Our promos do differ sometimes by different markets, so it's a little hard to say, but we do have a free trial for our subscription program that's called ChowBus Plus. And if you're looking for authentic Asian food, especially authentic Chinese food, this is the first place you want to check for anything else.
I love that. I know what I'm having tonight for dinner. So this is great. Tyler, thank you. And we're cheering for you and ChowBus. Thank you for being on the show, and we're cheering for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks.